Smiley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Wednesday, September 13th. So today we do have the moon moving out of this Leo energy, locking into Virgo energy that of course opens up the new moon energy window. We are growing towards the new moon in Virgo taking place late in the day, September 14th, early in the day, September 15th, depending on where it is that you live in the world. The Virgo energy is very low, very slow, very grounded. It is an earth energy. We do have to remind ourselves of that. It has a huge focus on our physical realms, our physical bodies, more importantly, our mental plane, what we're thinking, what we're focused on, what we're fixated on. And because this particular new moon event is very tied to, connected to, and karmically scripted, I would say, from the full moon in Pisces, I am going to recommend that you take a listen to the astro forecast that I put out for the new moon in Virgo. I'm going to recommend that you download your moon guide. I'm going to recommend that you bust out your Virgo season e-guide and capture the mood, the vibe, the attitude, the situation, the circumstance that you're currently dealing with, because that's going to prove to be very helpful when you look back on these particular puzzle pieces. May I also just remind you that we are but days away of Mercury, the ruler of Virgo season, the ruler of the new moon in Virgo, finally going direct, which is going to add a little bit of a cluster F in our mental space. As we've been experiencing, we're going to get a little bit of an extra intensity there, if I do kind of give you that caution. Mostly because a new moon is the dark phase of the moon. There's no illumination in the sky. We have to sit in the funk, really understand what we no longer want to experience, what we're no longer willing to tolerate, what we no longer want to continue to pour time, energy, and attention into. And from that, we can create a framework on the new seeds of intention that we would like to set under this new moon energy that is going to help us out by filling the void of the things that we're currently looking to remove. We can build something better in its place. So there's a whole vibe going on here. But what's interesting about today is that there's only 5 different aspects here today, which is kind of rare. We don't really have days like this anymore, where there's only like minimal aspects taking place, considering the fact that all 5 of them are going to involve the moon, makes it a moon day as well. So we're almost like, this is like the calm before the storm, if you will. And I hate to use the storm analogy because I don't think that this new moon in Virgo is going to feel like a storm. It's going to feel very heavy, very weighted. Mostly because it's an earth energy and we have to be very present in our here and now, in our physical bodies. Very logical and practical by kind of picking apart what needs to stay, what needs to go. So I don't think it's going to be like this whirlwind of craziness and confusion and commotion as much as it is kind of serious and somber. But this kind of quote unquote calm before the storm gives us an interesting dynamic to contemplate, especially seeing how, we are kind of completing the final days, the final hours of this beautiful kite formation that the cosmos is creating in the sky, which is very karmic in nature. If you want to talk a little bit more about that, do a little bit of a deep dive. There is a whole astro class on that over on my Patreon. And I just think that we're in for an interesting couple of days, and just having this kind of, I'm going to say, quiet, slow day set the tone should be a very interesting perspective that we emerge on the other side of this new moon in Virgo with. So if you listen to yesterday's energy forecast, you would know that we had the moon in Leo go void, of course, at 11:06 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we sat in the majority of the day with the moon void, which definitely stirred up a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts that created a lot of doubts, fears, and insecurities within us all. Well, we locked into the Virgo energy at 1:19 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here early Wednesday morning. And the first aspect that we are making is at 6:30 a.m. And it is the moon in Virgo sitting directly across from Saturn, the Lord of Karma, who is retrograde in Pisces energy. So Saturn being retrograde in Pisces energy is really helping us to dissolve our old belief system, is really helping us to identify our true vision, true dreams, true goals, if you will, and equally recognizing the fears, the doubts, the insecurities that are coming up to block us from actually pursuing such things. It's showing us where we have to create a different foundation, a different structure for our belief system, where we have to have a little bit more willpower, a little bit more discipline to actually bring into practice something that is going to help not only our physical bodies, but our emotional and karmic bodies as well. We have to understand that the Virgo and Pisces axis is the healing axis. The Virgo energy, the physical body, physical realm, mental plane, while the Pisces energy is emotional, karmic in nature. This opposition definitely going to bring on the weight, definitely going to bring on the funk. This is essentially the bitch slap of truth, the reality check that we need to have going into the new moon in Virgo energy. And a lot of that is because many of us have been in a whirlwind of confusion. Many of us caught up with lies, deceptions, delusions, deviations from the truth that we have essentially allowed to be planted in our unconscious self, which is creating a little bit of an out of control garden at this point. And as beautiful as it may be, and as whimsical as it may be at some point in time, we do have to really get down to the nitty gritty and understand that we have to be a little bit more organized in our garden. We do have to have the willpower. We do have to have a little bit more discipline to create a little bit better of a structure in our garden so that it's not just a wild, crazy field of fun, that it's actually productive in growing whatever it is that we're setting out to grow. So this particular interaction is going to probably knock the wind out of us just a little bit. We do have to come back down to earth. We can't just live in hopes and wishes and dreams. We can't just be in a meditative state. We actually have to put hands on the physical elements in our lives that need to be addressed, that need to be fixed, repaired, healed, resolved, or removed. And this is the energy, the vibe that is going to illuminate for us where we got to get real, where we got to get a little bit more authoritative in our ability to take power back, to take control back, and really start cleaning up our physical realm. The moon is then going to interact with Chiron, the wounded healer who was retrograde in Aries energy. This isn't the best interaction. We're really having an issue, a problem, if you will, with addressing what, as far as problems, issues, focuses go, needs to be addressed first and foremost. So considering the fact that the Virgo energy is mind and matter, what we focus on is what we bring to life, good, bad, or otherwise, we do need to realize where it is that we're having a negative perspective of self. Chiron, the wounded healer, retrograde, taking an internalized journey, a little bit of a walkabout inside of ourselves, realizing where the old self is dying, the new self hasn't been anchored in yet, and where it is that we're just not seeing ourselves from the best light. Considering the fact that the Virgo energy needs to kind of beat ourselves up, break ourselves down in order for us to build ourselves up in a much better, stronger, supportive kind of way, we do really need to kind of take on a negative narrative, if you will, of ourselves in order for us to be the harshest critic, cast the most judgment we could possibly ever cast, in order for us to realize where it is that is a very trauma-filled, pain-filled, egoic narrative, conditioning, if you will, and where something needs to be kind of better scripted in its place in order to be more supportive, more loving, more caring, and operating from higher self. The moon then goes ahead, makes a positive interaction with Pluto, who is retrograde in Capricorn energy. And if you've listened to me for any amount of time, you would know that I love when Virgo energy and Pluto energy come together in any kind of way, because Virgo energy does a deep dive in the lower level of our intellect, where logic and practicality from our egoic experiences are concerned, while Pluto does a deep dive in the deepest part of our psyche, really examining where the inner narratives, the conditioning, the programming is still alive and well, creating a lot of pain, creating a lot of fear, creating a lot of, I'm going to say, traumatic memories and experiences that we constantly get triggered and activated in our present moment, that has us kind of reverting back to the old methods, the old ways, the old reactive response, if you will, from our egoic selves. What we get here is a beautiful opportunity to examine the problem in order to fix it, to identify the brokenness in order to heal it. The Virgo energy wants to fix and repair and resolve whatever needs that kind of attention And Pluto is here in order to show us where we have the ability to flip the script and turn that pain into power, to turn the darkness into light, and to basically use our not so nice thoughts, memories, emotions, experiences in order to empower us instead of keeping us stuck in this vulnerable victimhood mentality. So I see this as being a good thing because it means that we're making a major change, a major transformation inside of ourselves, starting with our mental plane. All you need to do is knock over that first domino of having an aha moment and realizing where it is that the egoic programming, the conditioning from our upbringing is in constant replay, putting us in situations where we're just kind of in a looping pattern. We need to break out of that in order to act as the observer and have an awareness, if you will, on where it is that we want and need to do things differently. So the moon interacting with Pluto in this way, yes, it is very intense. Yes, it is a deep dive. Yes, it is very profound in illuminating some thoughts, some programming, some conditioning that essentially will help us flick that domino over and watch that domino effect stream from our mental plane down into our heart space and really change the way that we're feeling about some of the thoughts, ideas, perspectives, understandings that we have had. This is when the moon comes up to, bumps into Mercury. Okay, so Mercury rules over the Virgo energy that the moon is in. Mercury is retrograde in Virgo energy. And this is, I'm going to say, an opportunity for either an awareness of the alignment between our heart and our head, or an awareness of where our heart and our head are not on the same page. Now, this could be very profound as far as bringing clarity in, as far as recognizing what it is that we're moving closer to, or it could really put us in a situation and download us with a perspective on what it is that we have to create distance from. Again, we're moving into the new moon Virgo energy. This is more about endings and closures than it is about beginnings and initiating a fresh new chapter. So therefore, there's going to be a little bit of a focus, if you will, on either getting our heart and head on the same page or recognizing why we can't get our heart and head on the same page. Regardless, epiphany, clarity, aha moment that will totally change not only our perspective, but the way that we are feeling. The last thing that we have going on here today is the moon making an interaction, a not so great one if I do say so myself, with the North Node in Aries. So reminder, the North Node in Aries wants to get us on the right path to reach our soul's mission, our soul's purpose, our soul's potential. The whole kind of karmic lesson that we are gaining from the North Node in Aries over the next 18 months is where we have to be strong within ourselves, know who it is that we are, know what it is that we want, know what it is that we deserve, go after what it is that we want, what we need, what we deserve, break away from any kind of relationship or influence that is keeping us from going after what it is that we deserve now that we are new versions of self. It's going to be a very low and slow process, so it's not going to happen overnight, but just know that the moon interacting with the North Node in Aries in this way is going to illuminate problems, especially problems with the plans that we're having a hard time formulating and strategizing in order to actually move forward. We're going to recognize where the blockages, the obstacles, the challenges are in the plans that we're trying to make. But again, don't kind of run away from this, because the Virgo energy in its entirety needs to focus on the problems in order for us to fix them. Solutions are there, but you have to be aware that there are problems in order for us to sit down and have the tunnel vision to actually come up with solutions on how we're going to fix, heal, repair, or solve them. So this particular interaction is kind of setting us up to see what it is that we can no longer do, like the path, the plan, the routine that we're currently in, where it is that we can't do this anymore. And from that, really kind of percolate on some alternatives on what it is that we would prefer to be doing in that place.